listening to the IELTS podcast. Learn from tutors and ex-examiners who are masters of IELTS preparation. Your host, Ben Worthington.
Hello there, students. This episode is all about General Task 1. If you're doing the General Task 1 rather than the Academic Task 1, well, you're kind of lucky because it is slightly easier. Anyway, let's get to it. So this episode, we're going to focus on a few points, starting with looking at the different levels of formality. Then we're going to look at the organisation of the letter. Then we're going to cover a very interesting topic which I think will help your writing in general, not just for General Task 1, but that's about writing for the reader, not for the writer. And that's a very interesting point that I'm quite excited to teach, actually. And then finally, we're just going to look at the final check of the exam. So there's lots to learn here. As normal, grab a pen if you can, or just make notes in your phone. As I said a million times before, if we make this an active listening exercise, you're more likely to remember it. Plus, obviously, you're going to improve your listening skills. So let's get started. So there's a few different styles or levels of writing the General Task 1. Roughly speaking, we can go from formal, semi-formal to informal. And the instances that we would use this, well, first we've got formal, which would be diplomatic. So like on a diplomatic level, and in this case, it's highly unlikely we're going to get a task like that for the IELTS. But if we did, we would finish the letter respectfully yours and start it with dear sir or madam, or probably even a little bit higher. But I won't go into it because it's highly unlikely. Then we've got less formal, which is probably more the level for IELTS, which is like institutions or companies, in which case, once again, would say dear sir or madam, or dear sir / madam, comma. That's how we would open it. And also remember, we don't have to worry about the formalities of writing the address and stuff like that. Okay, so next one, slightly less formal, institutions, companies, and then we would finish with very truly yours cordially, very sincerely yours. Okay, then we've got informal, which would be another possibility on the IELTS test, in which case we could finish with best wishes, yours, best regards, and of course we would start with something like hello David or hello Mr. Jones, or something like this. And when would we use this slightly informal or perhaps semi-formal? Well, within a company, if it's like a company communication between one colleague to another colleague, even so, still we wouldn't want to slip into colloquial or spoken English. And some telltale signs of colloquial or spoken English would be if you're using stuff like I totally agree, or and stronger language, like I find it super irritating, like this, which is fine in spoken English between your friends, but for the exam we have to up it up a level, especially with this writing task. And then we've got the most informal level, which would be between families and friends, and this is where it's a bit more lively. We've got the contractions in there as well, probably got the contractions for the informal as well, but not too much as in I'm gonna sort it out next week. No, we would say I'm going to sort it out next week, okay? And then we'd still use contractions like I wouldn't, don't, these ones. We wouldn't write out the full version unless we were really trying to emphasize the action. So sorry. And moving on to the most informal ones, friends, family, in which case it would be like, hi Dave, ! Or hi Dave, And here it'd be much more lively, much more direct. And then we would finish with love, Benjamin, or hugs and kisses, or take care. And then maybe, just finishing it like that. That's the kind of style we want. Now, when we're actually attacking or starting the paper, the best way to organize your academic task 1 is to follow the bullets. Okay, follow the pointers ahead in front of you. And so if it says like write a letter of complaint, you must include 1, the date and the time where you where you bought the product. Bullet point 2, the reason of your complaint. Bullet point 3, what you would like from the company you're writing to. And these 3 bullets will be your 3 paragraphs, and that's how easy it is to structure the task 1. Now, it sounds super simple, and it is relatively easy. However, we do need to stay on topic, and we need to make it basically clear and simple. Clear as in, we don't want to write something like, I would like a refund of £99 plus VAT minus import duties. The import duties can be paid to my Swiss bank account, and the VAT can be sent directly to HRM Customs in London. Blah blah. No, there's no point trying to just write something technically complex like that. Just say I'd like a prompt refund into my bank account. Please find the details attached. You see, and this way we're getting the message across, and it's simple. Okay, we're not going to get any points for writing a complex story or a lengthy story. For example, if we have to write a letter of absenteeism of why we didn't go to the exam, there's no point going into details about what happened. We just say, I was ill with yellow fever between the dates 8th and 15th of December, and therefore I couldn't go to the exam room. Please find attached the doctor's note, and I apologise for this inconvenience. Okay, so it's just crystal clear. I'm not going to go into details. It's solid, it's straightforward, easy to understand. The examiner's like, okay, mission complete, points, task response, on target, good. So here's a few ideas, just a summary of what I was saying. You've got to make sure that we've got a clear purpose for writing, and that's usually presented at the beginning. Okay, so it'd say, dear sir or madam, comma, I'm writing in respect to a recent incident that happened at your airport 2 weeks ago. Yep, clear purpose, not wasting time. And this also goes for the informal ones. It's like, hi Jenny, new line, how are things? Hope all is good. I just wanted to ask you about the new car you bought last week. Yeah, it's clear. We're just warming up the conversation a little bit because this is slightly informal, like how things. This is all informal letter writing. And then I just wanted to ask you about the new car. And notice as well, we would actually write the contractions. I just wanted... sorry, that's not contraction. I just wanted to ask you about the new car. Yeah, or how's things, instead of how are things going. So those are contractions actually, but it's just more shortened speech. That's what I wanted to say. So the purpose for writing, we'll put the details, only the essential details. Okay, only the essential details. So if it says state your name, age and previous experience, you put that in the actual letter. But we don't say our birthdays, or we don't go into details about the experience or about experiences that we want. We just literally just follow the instructions. And then the closing, which I just briefly covered before. And the closing obviously has to correspond to the style of the writing. Now, what I want to go into is, while we're doing this, we must pay attention of not writing this letter for ourselves. And this is a really good skill to learn, not just for the IELTS. It will help you with your IELTS score, but it will also help you in your future English letter writing and just future writing in general and communication. And the principle is like, you don't write for yourself, you write for the reader. And the best way to explain this is through examples. So I'll give you a clue. Well, first of all, we're always courteous. We're not antagonistic. Okay, we're not talking about crazy threats of taking them to the court or threatening them to sue them with a class action lawsuit. No, we're going to try and be courteous and avoid confrontation. And now here's the main gist. So I'll give you an example, okay? Where the letter is a request letter, and we're asking for some money back. Okay, here's one example. If you don't give me a full refund, I'll contact the police in the next 24 hours. Okay, this is when we write for ourselves, because this is probably what's happening in our head. Now, if we want to write to the reader and for the reader, we would say something like, I would appreciate your considering to pay a full refund. And it's just more courteous, and it's much more likely as well that they're going to actually respond. And then perhaps later, when if the problem needs to be escalated, we can threaten and say we're going to contact the police. But at least in an IELTS essay, we don't want to be jumping to that level. In an IELTS letter, we don't want to be jumping to that level straight away. So here's another example. In a job application, we can either make it writer focused or reader focused. I'll give you one example. I have 3 degrees and a lot of accounting experience from my last job. Okay, now if we want to make it reader focused, we could say reader focused. We would say, I have qualifications and experience that would definitely help in your accounting department. So we switch the focus onto the reader. This not only makes it just a bit easier to read, because now the focus is on the reader, it's going to make it easy for the examiner as well. And of course, in a job application, it's going to be much more interesting for the person reviewing your application. So that would be the first issue. I'll give you one more example. So basically, if you think that the focus in that text, in your text, is all about you, then try and switch it and see how, if you were the reader, what you would like to hear for you. Okay? I'll give you one more example. You will be delighted to know that your project has been considered. Okay? This is writer focused, because it's coming from a writer's point of view. The writer's there thinking, oh, this person is going to be very happy that we have considered their project. It's all about me, this letter, this sentence, okay? Whereas if we switch it to a reader focus, we could say, congratulations, your project has been considered. Well done, you're super fantastic. Basically, congratulations, your project has been considered. You see? And it's got a different focus altogether. And if you can incorporate this into your writing, definitely going to be helpful for the IELTS, and also for your cover light when you're writing your personal statement. If you can write it orientated towards the university and how you're going to help the project, or how you're going to help them achieve better average scores because you're capable of doing this. Or even if you're applying for a job as a doctor, you could say I don't know, I totally agree with your quality control processes. In fact, I'm a keen supporter of this in my own practices, blah blah blah. Okay, but just focusing it on them. So that's what I wanted to say. Well, when you're considering constructing the text, and like I said, we're going to be looking what kind of language, formal, semi-informal, informal. One idea basically per bullet. It's going to be reader orientated, reader focused, and then we're going to check So what do we look for when we check? The easiest part would be to check that we've covered all the bullets in the requirements, in the task requirements. Or did we forget to mention our personal experience? Did we forget to mention a possible solution? So we must review the work. Then we look at the writing, and we can see, and we've got to concentrate on the largest issues first. Okay, so we go through and we read in the sentences, and if possible we're reading it aloud but just with a whisper, and we're going through and looking for grammar inconsistencies and issues. Correct those first, big issues first, and then once we've done that, hopefully we've still got time left, and we'll check again and look for the smaller issues. If we haven't, it's perfectly normal, don't worry. If you have got time left, don't sit there drawing pictures or twiddling your thumbs. Just have a look, go through it, look for issues, punctuation, look for mistakes that you've made previously in your practice writing, and corrects them. So that's it's a strategy to improve your score in the IELTS writing task 1 in the general. Now, if you're really serious about improving, then I'd consider getting some feedback, getting your essay corrected, and this way it's the fastest way to improve. And you can do that at IELTSwritingtask.net. Essay correction packs are available there. But if you're worried about the structure of your writing, or you want to improve it even further, get some of the essay skills and organisation of ideas, you can just have a look at the online courses at sentenceguide.com. Okay, have a fantastic day. I hope everything's going well, and remember to sign up, and if you could leave us an iTunes review as well, that would be absolutely awesome. So all the best and good luck in your exam.